What's up, runners? Today we're going to dive into Thief, who has been my favorite runner aesthetically and conceptually, because I am a goofball who really hoped that she would be able to mess with people. This video was going to cover the leaked information, but Bungie saw fit to finally show us her abilities in their runner developer insight. This is part 6 in our series exploring the runners of Marathon and their abilities. You can find the full playlist below, and while you're down there, like and subscribe to help share this video and keep up to date on Marathon. Thief specializes in finding and taking high-value loot with a mix of recon and mobility. Paired with Void, she was the first wave of runners we were shown back when Ziegler first discussed the game publicly. She has featured somewhat prominently in the marketing, but until recently has had her skill set very under wraps. The shell has a very stark white and black color scheme which brings attention to her purple-pinkish effects. Her armor seems to have bulky spots that move to reveal her tools, such as a grappling hook. With all the new footage and reveals, the character definitely has some inspirations similar to the Rogue in Dark and Darker or Loba from Apex. Loba excels at gearing your team, and the Rogue ensures shenanigans with pickpocketing and agility. Her first passive, based on the game post leaks, is the Finer Things. Unfortunately, all we have is the name at this time with no descriptions. However, in the runner developer insight, the devs note that her tactical cooldown, handling, and stats will be improved as she fills her backpack to become a loot goblin. I believe this may be the actual effects of the Finer Things and her first passive. Thief's second passive actually has some information and gameplay to boot. This is X-Ray Visor, as a toggleable passive that, when active, highlights loot containers by the highest rarity inside them. You will see the outline of the container with a colored holographic filter with white, green, blue, purple, and gold highlighting, even out to quite a long range in some of the footage they showed us. This can definitely speed up the looting process for you and your team if you're looking for items of a certain rarity. Remember, certain containers are more likely to carry certain items. For example, there are medical core containers that have high spawn rates for cores and implants, meaning a good thief would be able to identify the rarity and the likely contents at a distance. As a bonus, this will also highlight enemy players by the highest rarity item they are carrying as long as they are in line of sight. We see this does work through glass, and if you're able to take overwatch of an area, this may allow Thief to spot sneaky players much more easily. If not, this does still allow you to identify players who may have high tier weapons and armor equipped at a glance and prioritize targets for your team. Now, Thief's tactical is the Grapple device. This hook can create its own grapple point in the air for you to swing wherever you would like. It is very similar to how grappling works in Destiny, and it's always felt very fun to do in Destiny. This gives her the ability to both move horizontally at some speed, but also to gain access to high ground in ways only vandals or other thieves could contest. In the gameplay, they do show this being used back to back very quickly, so either you can get multiple charges, or it can be scaled down to an extremely fast cooldown. And I just want to note, you do look like you are unable to shoot during the grapple animation. Finally, her prime is the Pickpocket drone. This ability is a deployed, piloted drone which can freely fly up or down and is capable of ripping a random item out of a player or AI inventory onto the ground. The drone can then pick these items off the floor and fly it back to you. This has infinite possibilities for being a troll and messing with people, and I am all for it. Additionally, this serves as a remote recon tool, allowing you to spy on fights or scout dangerous terrain before your team moves in, letting Thief take a similar role to Blackbird by finding enemies, though removing her from the fight in the process. I went over the developer clips several times to pick out some additional details for you about the drone. The drone's HUD is shown to us in all of its clips and actually contains a lot of information for us. Starting on the top left, we do have the match timer, which is paused in the dev gameplay, and the top center then has the compass to help with callouts and navigation. Middle left has a distance bar that dictates how far from Thief the drone is, and the top of the bar is assumedly your max range. Based on the max distance this goes in the clip, the maximum range is probably around 150 units. On the right, you have your velocity, which is, for all intents and purposes, probably useless to you. Finally, on the bottom, in the bottom left, we have what I assume are your runner's health and shield levels, which can let you know when your healing is done or if you are under fire. Bottom center has the controls for elevation, elevation locking, and exiting the drone, as well as 2 bars with health and power readouts. My assumption being the bars are representative of the health and power numbers. Due to this being a controlled ability, I would assume the drone is either capable of being used without a full charge or back to back with the power based on how full your charge was, or that the cooldown is tied to how much power you use before ending the ability. Finally, in the bottom right, we have your item storage in the drone's inventory. When the drone picks up an item, 1 square is filled and the counter goes up to 1. This is either a limit on the number of items, capping at 8 items, or a limit on space, capping at 8 squares of item size. So something like a backpack would normally take up 4 squares, but only 1 item. This difference can change how many items you're actually holding in the drone, so it's important that we find that out when the game comes out. As a kit, this character seems to be a mix between the movement of Glitch and the recon of Blackbird. They should be the fastest to clear a room of high value items and never be wanting for access, as the grapple saves time getting to more loot, and the X-ray visor means you'll never hit an all white box on accident. She might even have the worst utility during a fight, as none of her abilities create a true opening for her to capitalize on. She seems like she would excel as a sniper, able to access high ground consistently and steal items from a distance. I can only assume Thief wants to minimize the possibility of being found and maximize the opportunity Surprise would present her. To play more close range and aggressive with this character, you would want to lean heavily on utility items, mainly grenades and other offensive toys, which you should be able to find plenty of by looting high value boxes and looting players in AI. Thief is definitely shaping up to be a very fun character, though she brings some high risks due to her lack of direct combat abilities. She can't be as safe as an invisible assassin or a blocking destroyer. She might be able to briefly outrun her enemies like Vandal with a double grapple, but they would catch up, and she definitely doesn't have a pocket grenade or healing like Recon and Triage. Being able to optimize and accelerate looting does allow your team more time to move and scan for enemies, but it feels like a lot of value you have to provide instead of the character. She is very interesting when it comes to a solo mode. When being caught off guard means instant death with no second chance, having the flexibility to both recon the area you're entering and bypass the map design to take high ground is a very potent survival tool. When it comes to a team, based on the information available, this runner seems well paired with Destroyer and Triage. Recon and Thief could double dip into the locate enemy style, but they might step on each other's toes. Destroyer is the prime distraction and holdout character that can buy time for Thief to steal from enemies, take up a sniping angle, or flank with her grapple. Meanwhile, Triage can provide consistent healing as you skirmish and keep your Destroyer alive. Thief does not seem eager to jump into the fray as much as observe and take calculated shots. I think the concept of the character is at least thematic. Stealing is fun in games, so I feel she'll have plenty of fans, me included. It's a very unexplored archetype in FPS games, as it's almost entirely unnecessary when most FPS games don't have inventories. So I'm very excited to see exactly how this all plays out at launch. Let me know down below what you think. Will you be joining me on the dark side and stealing loot from everyone else? Check out the playlist for our other runner deep dives. Thank you very much for joining me today. Next, we'll be covering Rook, our final runner. I will see you all again very, very soon.